Good evening. I'd like to call the North Augusta City Council study session for Monday, September the 29th, 2025 to order. And this time I'd like to turn it over to our city administrator, Mr. Jim Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. We'll go through a standard study session protocol, starting off with an agenda review. For department details, you have a hard copy of the department details for you this evening. I'm not going to have the director's brief, so we can go right to item number 3, which is the budget review. So with that, let's go ahead and move into the agenda. And we'll go into starting with old business under planning and development, ordinance number 2025-16 to amend the zoning map of the city of North Augusta, South Carolina, by rezoning plus or minus 0.4 acres of land owned by HF Developers LLC from PD to DTMU 2, second reading. And so as I was able to show you during the last study session, ultimately what this rezoning action will do is allow for a very small parking arrangement outside of Parcel K in Riverside Village. And so there was a diagram I provided in the last council meeting. And so again, that just adds parking to Parcel K, which had already previously been approved by the council as far as the overall parking plan. But this is a zoning action that had to go concurrently with that parking plan. But I'll pause for any questions there. Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. I have 2 items for planning and development. So the first is ordinance number 2025-17, amending Article 9, signs, and Appendix A, definitions related to halo illumination of the North Augusta Development Code, Chapter 18 of the City of North Augusta, South Carolina Code of Ordinances, first reading. And here you go. So City Council has previously denied use of neon signs, but we've had exceptions go through on the halo signs. So here you have a graphical representation of the difference between those types of signs. So on neon sign, you can actually see the gas tube as part of the lighting apparatus. And so they're on the left-hand side of the slide, and in your packet, you'll be able to actually see the light, if you will. Whereas on the halo lighting, you have, it could be neon, it could be LED, or it could be another type of light, but it's almost like a backlight. So you don't actually see the lighting element itself. It backlights another element on a sign and allows that to go. And this has been something that's been requested from Augusta Oncology and from other businesses here in the downtown corridor. So based on feedback that we got from the Planning Commission to the planning staff, they went through and made a unanimous recommendation to do a text amendment on the development code that would allow halo signs there on the right-hand side of the screen within DTMU 1 and 2. I'll pause for any questions on this one.
No, downtown 1 and 2. So George Avenue, Riverside Village.
Well, because that's where we're getting the demand signal right now, Councilwoman. So that's where we're getting the demand signal from. But
well, we have different signage for different areas of the city already in the code.
So, Councilman, I would say, like a lot of other initiatives that we've had here in the city, this is a good proof of concept. So ultimately, you're able to take a smaller segment of the city, see how it's incorporated, see if you like what those aspects look like, and if there's a future desire between the City Council and the Planning Commission to actually implement that in a larger swath of area, we can certainly do that. But
they could come before Planning Commission or
the BZA.
Okay, and ask for their business, any business throughout the city of North Augusta.
That's correct. But not based on the text amendment. So what this text amendment would do is, if you're in downtown mixed use 1 or 2, you would have the ability to go and procure and mount a halo sign without a bunch of extra special permissions from the city, BZA, anybody else. But if you have folks that are outside of the DTMU 1 and 2 and they want to do something along those lines, that would require a BZA request.
Rick, he'll beat me up, I reckon, but like even Riverview Park Activity Center, to me, that would be a special place to have it, a halo sign.
I like the halo signs. I think you can see it's night and day, the difference. So I think, again, it fits, and So I like it.
Just going to ask a devil's advocate question. I like the halo signs, but why do we care? I mean, what? And I say that's the wrong way to ask it. What's the impetus to not? Because I've got mixed feelings. Support this, and I'll say that up front. I mean, I'm not pushing back on it, just asking more of a devil's advocate question. But you look at the two that we have there, the one for Coast, which is a nice looking sign that I would think is kind of, would potentially fit with a trendier restaurant downtown. The other one, not so much. Just what's the pushback? And again, I support it. I'm not making an argument, more of just a devil's advocate point to hear the other side. I mean, what's the impetus for us to not allow neon signs?
I could show you a lot of ugly neon signs, Councilman. Plus, the other probably run into with some of the neon signs is when they start to malfunction.
Yes.
It's a bad look.
Yeah, because I mean, I could show you some probably ugly backlit signs too, but I think maybe that's more of the point. I mean, they are, which any of them are going to look bad if you have malfunctioning lights behind them. But I guess the backlit, at least there's an actual analog sign there, where with the others. And I'm not arguing with it, not pushing back, just kind of wondering what the official.
Councilman, I can tell you this kind of originated with the Planning Commission based on the traffic they were seeing and the requests they were getting along with the BZA, and this request came from those bodies to the Planning Department to craft a response.
Were the requests for the backlit signs or the neon or both? Were we getting requests for both?
The requests are for the backlit signs.
Yeah, not the neon. So we haven't really had any neon sign requests either.
I've not seen any formal action taken at a planning commission or a BZA meeting. I don't want to say that's never happened, but I'm not aware of one.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think I mentioned the other night, I think what the planning commission is doing right now is really good, because when this sign ordinance got passed, I believe when Mayor Pettit at that time, a lot happens. And what we're seeing is that maybe there was an overall sign ordinance, but now there's situations where we're rethinking. Because, hey, there wasn't a Beacon Bluff, there wasn't a Augusta Oncology. So I like the fact that they are looking at situations. Hey, we really never addressed neon signs, and we probably ought to go ahead and let's, make sure we keep that from happening. So
Well, I
think it's very proactive. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm like Kevin. I'm not going to not vote for it. But also, when these people have these signs, let's say White Oak up there, and their W goes out, and you got HITE, I think that should be, don't wait a year before you replace that. That should be placed, because don't you see a lot of signs that way? Some of the letters are out. And
Councilman, if you allow me, I'm going to just read what I got from Tommy Paradise, and he was not able to be here this evening, but this kind of gives you a little bit of history of why this is in front of you right now. Again, this is not a staff-led item. The Board of Zoning Appeal has approved several variances to allow halo lighting illuminated signage in the DTMU2 zoning district, including Augusta Oncology and Beacons Bluff. At the BZA's May 6th meeting, they requested that the Planning Commission look at a possible text amendment to allow this type of signage in the DTMU and 1 and 2 districts. Staff presented the request and information about the signage to the Planning Commission at their meeting on May 21st, but they had technical questions outside the scope of the information staff was able to provide. AAA Sign Company attended the July 15th meeting of the Planning Commission and provided some of the technical questions, and then FINF Sign Company appeared at the Planning Commission August 20th meeting and provided technical information as well. The Planning Commission wanted to hear from 2 independent sources. Out of that information, the Planning Commission was ready to proceed with a recommendation and had to put it on their September 17th agenda, where they unanimously recommended approval. So that's how this action has come to you as the council.
And that's great. But I just be sure when these businesses outside the downtown area, I don't want us to be talking out of 2 sides of our mouth.
As someone who's lived around neon signs previously, the light from neon signs, we got to think about, we've got a lot of mixed businesses and residents throughout North Augusta. A lot of places there'll be a business and there'll be 5 houses right there facing the business. The light from the neon sign is much more intrusive to your bedroom window at night than the light from the backlit sign. And for that reason, I like that for all of North Augusta, because even up in the Lyndhurst where I live, a block over, there's a main business street. So if there was a big neon sign up there, it would come to, you know, it's more, the light is just more intrusive.
No, we've already done the neon. Yeah. Yeah, just the halo. Yeah. But you know, Pat, it's kind of like, remember when back Be Ye Holy wanted that type of sign, Be Ye Holy, over there by North Augusta Middle School? Well, that signage is approved on Martintown Road. But again, so you just can't, we just
Well-
don't have one sign that fits everybody. So.
Now, Mayor, I'm gonna bring, and I know this is, but since you brought that up about Be Ye Holy, North Augusta Middle, within 2 months, had up a sign, and I called around, I said, who approved that? And of course, the school themselves said, we're
Yeah, I
gonna
know.
put it up. Boom. And I'm telling you, the school is right next door to the residential people. But yet we turned down Be Ye Holy, you know, and I'm sorry, I haven't got over that yet.
Okay.
Okay, and I did not think that was fair whatsoever for that church. Now, even though they made lemonade out of a lemon, they went back and got a pretty sign up that meets all the codes. But like I said, out there by Paul Knox, all there in residential area, in which I'm fine for those signs. I want them to have those signs because it keeps the parents so informed. But when we let this group do it and this group not, I'm totally against that.
Okay.
Any other questions about this particular item? All right, we'll move on to the next new business under planning and development, ordinance number 2025-18, amending table 5.1, use table related to self-storage mini warehouses of the North Augusta Development Code, Article 5 of the Chapter 18 of the City of North Augusta, South Carolina Code of Ordinances, first reading. See if I got some from Tommy on this one as well. Essentially, there was a demand signal from the Planning Commission to the planning staff about asking the City Council to look at restricting the locations in which self-storage lots could go, and these are predicated on two recent applications. So you have the one that's going to the old Kmart, and then you also have a new self-storage facility that's going to be going behind the QT at exit 5. So that's in addition to another self-storage lot that's at exit 5, and we're grateful to have some of their business, but the question is, which part of towns do you want those to be in? And so what the Planning Commission had requested was a look at putting some restrictions on self-storage to be in industrial zones only. And so that is the action that will be before you as an ordinance change.
So industrial zones, is that like near Revco Road, I'm assuming?
Yes. So I'll read what Tommy sent me, which was after approval of the site plan for a self-storage mini warehouse facility at the old Kmart on May 21st, the Planning Commission asked staff to review what restrictions could be placed on the use. At their July 16th meeting, the Planning Commission was provided with information from the staff of possible restrictions and recommendations of possibly not allowing in the general commercial. At their August 20th meeting, they requested staff prepare a text amendment limiting the use to industrial as a conditional use that is already provided for in the Development Code, Section 5.5.18. At their September 17th meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended that the City Council amend the Development Code to only allow as a conditional use in the industrial district with their condition in Section 5.5.18. So again, this is something that the Planning Commission had requested our planning staff to look at and unanimously recommended to you as the council to restrict self-storage lots to the industrial zone.
So you look at the one at the old Kmart, and then half a mile away, it's in the county, but there's gonna be one there. We don't have any say on that, that's the county, that's one of those donut holes in the county. Again, I think what the planning commission is doing is being proactive, and I think I agree with that. I don't have any problem. They're doing their job.
So any questions? We'll move on to the next item. Under Finance Ordinance number 2025-19, amending the business license ordinance of the City of North Augusta to update the class schedules required by Act 176 of 2020. So essentially what we get every year is the Municipal Association of South Carolina sends us language, a draft resolution or correction, draft ordinance, which is legally sufficient for the state of South Carolina for the business license fees. So essentially what you do is you just take the exact verbiage you get from MASC, you apply it to your city, and then the city council is required to pass that, or else there's risk that the state of South Carolina could restrict your business license fees, and that would be not a good thing because, as we'll discuss in our budget discussion, that's a good chunk of our general fund. So we'd like to be compliant with the state of South Carolina's rules and regulations associated with business license taxes. So these are not things that are dreamed up by the city staff, if you will. This is a state level requirement that each municipality is supposed to pass to be in compliance with their rules and laws. And subject to any questions on that, we'll move on to the next one. Okay, moving into engineering and public works, ordinance number 2025-20, granting an easement to Dominion Energy, South Carolina Inc. for placement of facilities, first reading. And so I should have brought a map with me, so I apologize for not having a visual, but the location that the easement would be for is there's a piece of city property, and if you can orient yourself to exit 5 there at Interstate 20, if you were heading northbound on Route 25 and made a left-hand turn down Austin Grayville, you'd pass the self-storage, you'd pass the standalone emergency room, you'd pass the True Hotel, you'd pass an empty lot, and the lot next to that is a city-owned piece of property, which we use for stormwater and other purposes. And ultimately, Dominion is looking to add capability and capacity north of I-20 that has to do with their natural gas lines. And so they want to be able to they're going to bore underneath Interstate 20, and where they're going to come out is basically right by the city property there, and they need to be able to run their pipe, and this pipe would be underground, not above ground, so it would not have an unsightly appearance, if you will, but they do require, in order to make the run that they have to make, would have to use city property to get that easement. So that's essentially what is being asked for from Dominion, and the staff recommends that approval because it's good for citizens that live north of I-20 to have additional capacity from Dominion. Subject to any questions on that, I'll move into item number 10 under administration, ordinance number 2025-21, designating a high enforcement towaway zone in Riverside Village. What I'm going to recommend is we're going to push this one more council meeting. So even though it's on the agenda review here, you're not going to see it as the ordinance for the next council meeting. We want to do a little extra refinement on that. That's on me. But ultimately, we wanted to signal to you as we talk about parking and enforcement in Riverside Village. This is one of many actions. You have already passed actions associated with pedestrian safety and allowing us to fund crosswalks and flashing lights along with the Bollard project that Tom's going to work for us this year or next year. But this is the next piece of that, which would essentially allow for us to tow vehicles that are illegally parked in Riverside Village. So the bollards are going to prevent people from parking next on the sidewalk, but there's lots of other parts to include that middle plaza and the Crown Plaza area where people just park kind of all over the place.
Well, let me ask you this, because a dear friend of mine called the other night down where the old skating ring, the parking right there by Bowl, and they put the signs up. I'm sure that's recently towed away at your. Well, he comes out of Brink Tavern. His car's gone. Well, I said there's nothing you can do about that. That was they put those for the people, I guess, in the apartments or something. So, but we will have that type sign that people will see, and they mean business. You're going to tow them away.
Councilman, I don't want to get in front of what JD is going to brief, in a couple of weeks, but what I would tell you is, yes, there would be a requirement for a sign, and we also, as a city council, would have to select a vendor. We'd have to go through a request for proposals, and that way it's not, a random group of people coming in tow trucks. What we do want to do, though, is not have public safety or code enforcement involved in enforcement, and that, if there's a car parked illegally on the sidewalk or in certain areas, that they have the ability to just pull that vehicle on their own, and that there would be requisite signage in Riverside Village that says, hey, if your vehicle's missing, because you parked here, then call this number with so-and-so towing, because that's where your car is.
And I noticed they've got the sign, Big Tow is the towing company. Who actually calls them, like the owner?
Councilman, a lot of times when you see in other cities is those towing companies have people that are on patrol, if you will.
Oh,
And so that takes us out of the enforcement business from a towing perspective. So certainly shop owners or city personnel could call, but normally what happens is the tow company just does a drive-through on a Saturday night or whenever, and they go, oh, there's 3 cars parked in the median here, which should not be here, and then they pull them and
But they would
That's it.
choose their own towing company, whoever.
no, you as the council would choose, so there would be a high enforcement area with a map that says this is,
This is on city property.
yes.
All right, okay, yeah, okay. But he was.
But we'll have a more comprehensive discussion about that, but to your point, what private property owners do with their parking lots is completely up to them. So you won't see that on the next agenda review, you'll have it on the following study session. And then under public safety, which is why I believe Margaret's here in the audience, resolution number 2025-33, authorizing the disbursement of opioid settlement funds to the Aiken Center for the establishment of a new peer support specialist and a licensed addiction counselor dedicated for North Augusta, and authorizing the city to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Aiken County Commission on Alcohol and Drug Abuse regarding South Carolina opioid settlement funding. And so Chief, in particular, his staff have been in dialogue with Margaret about their requests and what they're looking to do. This is supportive of the agency by having their folks there, and supports Margaret's key mission within the Aiken Center. And so you'll see this resolution basically saying, hey, this funding, which can only be used in very specific ways, kind of like ARPA was set aside, you had very straight rules with ARPA. The opioid settlement money has also rules associated with that, so you can't buy fire trucks with opioid money. You can only use it in certain ways, and we believe this is a legally sufficient way to spend those funds and be in a relationship with the Aiken Center, which we already are from previous actions, and so this would be a good continuation of that. And if there's anything else, I'll defer to Chief on his understanding of the request.
Yeah, so this right here is from the South Carolina Opioid Recovery Fund. We already partnership with Margaret Key and the Aiken Center. We've been a part of a master plan for several years into this. And part of that master plan is to have peer support specialists and licensed addiction counselors within North Augusta. That way, if someone in North Augusta has an addiction to the opioids, they're not being told, you got to go to Aiken, you got to go to Aiken. They can get the help that they need right here within North Augusta. And they're partnering with other state agencies so that they have a place to be. That way they can provide those services here within the city. And this fits within the amount of funding that we've received, and we're very limited in what we can do with it, and this supports that cause.
Chief, is this, so the write-up, Margaret, very good, thank you. But for the 2 positions, so we're funding just for a year, and then are we going to budget from the opioid for so many years?
So the MOU we're signing is for 3 years, but it can be terminated after 60 days. So if we only want to do this for 1 year, that is a possibility. However, we have a little over $500,000 in this fund now. And as you see the amount, it's still going to be coming in. Payments will still continue to come in over time. So hopefully this is something we'll be able to continue for a number of years.
I think it's a great use of those funds, and I think it just, I think what Margaret and her team's doing there and what we need, the problems, not just North Augusta, but in this whole entire country, if we can make a difference in North Augusta, I think it's great.
Yep, I agree
Got my
too.
support.
And I'm not against it by no means. I'm totally for it. I'm just curious, what else could this funds be used for? Nothing else?
So it can only be used for opioid abatement to prevent that. Other ways in which we use it are much smaller. Like we used it to fund our cop cards last year. So every cop card that we hand out has a slogan on the back of it. And in the first year, last year, we used it to purchase the CAT team truck, which you see. And if you notice, it has the Aiken Center logo on it. It has a Narcan logo on it. So we've done things to try to advertise, but it's very minimal spending.
Oh, I'm for it for sure. I'm just curious. Ask some questions.
And then you said Junior there won't have to go to Aiken, and I presume I see in here the Aiken Barnwell building on Martintown Road. Now, will that be, the people can just walk in and say, look, I need help? And is it 24/7 or is it just?
So part of what we want to do is whenever we encounter these people is give them those resources.
Oh,
we can give them a card. We can give them a pamphlet that will be provided by Margaret that tells them how to get in touch with them, when they can go, and who they can talk to.
And where would they go in the city? Aiken Barnwell or Martintown?
I'm so excited, Margaret, because, you know, the deal fell through up at Belvedere. And I was sort of sad over that, but I'm thankful, and Junior and all of you, because as you see, this nation is getting worse and worse. And so maybe we can offer help to our citizens.
I agree with the mayor and I agree with Ms. Pat. I think there's probably shouldn't be anybody in this room that hasn't lost anybody to opioid addiction or hasn't had to help somebody with opioid addiction. I think I hate to see the stigmatism and the shame surrounding some of the counseling services that they offer. I think if we can get them in our community, partnering and give them public spaces to give public classes for Narcan, and we need to do everything we can. There's absolutely no shame in anything we can do to save a life. The only shame there is anything we don't do and anything we leave on the table. So,
You have to be trained to administer Narcan.
Talk to Chief, man.
Oh,
Talk to Chief. He's
All right, Chief, I'm sorry, Margaret.
So all of our officers are trained to administer Narcan before they can have it. Now the Department of Public Health does pass out Narcan. You can meet with them, and we give it out to some people at community events that we go to.
Margaret and her people taught me to use Narcan over a cup of coffee, and I keep it in my truck. You never know when somebody's gonna bump into you or you're gonna bump into somebody, and it has nothing to do with the fact that they weren't looking at where they were going. They could be in the middle of an overdose, and you save somebody's life like that where somebody would have died.
Well, can anybody walk in, let's say Parks Pharmacy, and buy it?
You can buy it at Kroger too.
Yeah, okay.
When I was traveling cross country, Miss Pat, when I went through Oklahoma, in one of the big truck stops, they had a vending machine that had Narcan. You just pushed the button, and Narcan, there it was.
All right, so if there's any questions, those are the agenda items for review for next week. And with that, I'll go ahead and move into budget.
Before we get to the budget, if you don't mind, funny, we have nobody here tonight, but they're watching on live stream, I'm sure. So I want to say a few things. We've been doing a lot of listening over the last months over what our next steps for animal control direction is. And for all the people out there watching, we appreciate everyone's patience. I think we have tried to be diligent to make sure that we have looked at all sides. And as I said when we began this process, we are going to decide on a plan, we're going to move forward, and we're not going to kick the can anymore. So for me personally, after a lot of reflection and analysis, I have finally landed on where I believe our plan should be. And I hope this council would be supportive of it. And I want to share, because one aspect of this will be part of the budget that Jim is going to talk about, because I asked him to put this in the budget for consideration. So I see us doing three things from this point forward. One, he's going to talk about we need to put a full-time animal control, tech, code enforcement, whatever the position is going to be called, in the 2026 budget. That's not a public safety officer, but that's going to be someone who can be at the shelter, including the weekends. I think that will open the doors for more volunteers. So I think that will be positive. We're going to let Tyler meet with public safety, and together they are going to agree on 3 improvements that are a priority for us to do to the existing dog shelter. We'll give them 30, 45 days to meet. They'll get estimates, and depending on what they decide, some of that might be something that Jim can handle. That may be something that's come back to our council. But we're going to let Tyler and public safety agree on 3 improvements that are the most important things right now that need to be done, and we're going to do it. The third thing, which I think is the most important, is we will form a committee, and it's going to be part of the Public Safety Foundation. This is similar to what we're doing with the Brick Pond Park Committee, which y'all will hear more about, I think, this month. But this committee will be appointed by council in the next 30 to 45 days. They're going to make a mission statement, and this group is going to be tasked to focus on short-term fundraising for our existing dog shelter going forward. So after we do this initial 3 investment, future short-term investment, this group will be required to come up with that. They also are the ones who are going to focus on the long-term fundraising and the management of a permanent animal shelter in the future if that is the priority that they are going to do. This will be the group that will work with our animal control person in relations to other nonprofits when it comes to volunteers, adoptions, and procedures, all within the city guidelines. In the representation of this committee, they all must live in the city limits. So we'll have a public safety representation. We're going to have a council representation. We'll have a veterinarian representation. We're going to have a FONA representation. And I think we'll have two at-large citizens. So I think this is a good faith plan. I think it addresses what I've heard and what I hope this council has heard. I'm sure, like everything, it's not going to make everybody happy, but I think it's what's needed now. It gives us a path forward. And the reality is this. This gives a plan for our citizens who are passionate about this topic to move this ball in the direction they want to move it with a structure, with an organization of this committee that can make that happen. So that's kind of my story and what I'm sticking to. Any thoughts?
100% a step in the direction we need to go. 100%. This is a bucket list item for me. Like in my lifetime, I didn't think we would have this change at our animal shelter. So it means a lot to me, and I'm appreciative to everybody in this room for it. They deserve it. The dogs deserve it. That's all I can tell you. You wouldn't know till you've held a couple hundred of them, but it's absolutely worth it. And I think, we are out there behind the scenes looking for what the future looks like, whether it be a partnership, because I don't see a reason if Edgefield and Macon want to expand, why they wouldn't want to expand in a central location like North Augusta that gets foot traffic from all over the area. So we are looking for that partnership, that possible nonprofit association that helps us get that and even gets us into where we get corporate sponsorship. But this is definitely the direction we need to go. This extra personnel has been needed, something desperately. We just need somebody there to coordinate with people that want to possibly adopt animals and somebody to clean the kennels. Officer McBride desperately needs to be out in our community writing tickets.
Yep.
I don't mean that to say that as a hateful, ugly person, but even I've shared with Councilman Buck, there's been several cases that we could have done more as far as enforcement on. And it's just because there's not time. So this means a lot to me, and I'm really thankful tonight, y'all. Thank you.
And I agree, Mayor. I think those are good thoughts, good suggestions.
Okay.
And Dennis, I'm glad, son, you liking it. Okay?
I agree as well.
You have
100%.
thought for it, yeah. So, Mayor, I agree.
You good with it, Kevin? Yeah. Okay. So just how this will work is we will codify this when we get to when Jim goes through his thing. When we vote on the budget for the animal control person, that will be. We will vote on a resolution to appoint the committee. So we're doing that. And then we're saying from the dais tonight that we want Tyler and Chief and Captain Hayes and Officer McBride to sit down to start working on what the 3 improvements are. So the main thing, I just wanted to get that out there for that. So it makes a little bit more sense now when Jim gets to the conversation about.
Even if we were to break ground or start remodeling the building tomorrow morning, we would still be 2 or 3 years from a new shelter. And it's about what we can do for the dogs right now while we figure out what that looks like. And making what we got now the most humane situation possible is the world to everybody involved.
And it's got to be driven by a structured group, and that's what we're going for. So anyway, all right. Sorry to take your thunder. It's all yours now, sir.
Let's go ahead and move into the fiscal year 2026 budget briefing. And so what I'd like to do before we even get in there, and here's the purple slide, and I have my liter bottle of Diet Coke here because this could be a 4-hour briefing or it could be an 1.5-hour briefing. Really, it all depends on you as the council. So I'll put this down here. Not allowed to drink on the time.
Another half a
So-
sandwich under there.
I understand here, at least present in the audit, present here on the dais, we've got several new council members who have not gone through a budget process. The lion's share of the budget that we talk about here during budget season is the general fund budget. The general fund budget is made up of revenues mostly associated with property tax and also with business license fees. There's other revenue lines that include, parks and rec fees and, code enforcement or whatever. There's lots of little buckets, but essentially the two main drivers of the general fund have to do with property taxes and business license fees. In addition to the general fund, we have numerous enterprise funds, and that's why you see 3 coffee cups here on my table today. These enterprise funds have to be independent, and so you'll have an enterprise fund for water, you'll have an enterprise fund for sanitation, you'll have an enterprise fund for stormwater. So you have multiple enterprise funds, and each of those funds have their own revenue and expenditure lines. What's important to remember is that you have some flexibility within certain funds to move between different lines. But when you start talking about enterprise funds, I cannot pour my Diet Coke out of this cup and put it into this cup. Once it goes into this cup, it has to stay in this cup. So the water fund can only be used to do water activities. I cannot do other activities out of the water fund. And likewise, I cannot take the sanitation fund and use it to fund other things to backstop a weaker fund or underperforming fund. And that sometimes we'll see, at least nationwide, cities will get into trouble, especially as they run into financial straits, where they'll kind of play a shell game a little bit and move funds from different enterprise funds to backstop, a weaker performing fund. We are not legally allowed to do that, and that won't happen at least while I'm your city administrator. And so ultimately, we want to make sure that the enterprise funds, these standalone funds, that's its own business line, if you will. Almost think about the city as a corporation and sub-businesses under that, and these have to operate independently. You cannot use other funds to backstop those funds. So if the water fund or another fund is underperforming for a variety of reasons, or because costs have spiraled because of inflation or whatever else, then those actions that remediate that fund have to be to that fund, cannot be to another fund. So enterprise funds are standalone funds with its own revenue and expenditure lines associated with those enterprise funds. And then as we go back into the general fund, for the council members that have already sat through a budget briefing, your budget packet that you got on Friday looks different than you have in previous years. You used to get the binder, and that had to do with the software. So CSI was the software that we had, and that gave you kind of the dot matrix looking list that you would have. What you have now is the GovSense version, and ultimately, when you look at other municipalities, Rock Hill, Spartanburg, larger municipalities, this is the format that they use. So for new council members, this is just going to be how it looks to you all the time. But for the longer serving council members, this is a change to how it's been presented. And so the guts of this are what you have. You're going to have some additions to the budget, not fiscally, but as far as the verbiage, when we have the final budget product for the first ordinance reading, which includes the city administrator statements and from the departments. But the guts of this, the math, is what you have before you for consideration as we go through this. And lastly, the Moody's rating agency had contacted Linda Williamson, our finance director, myself, a couple weeks ago. They had a questionnaire. We did a video teleconference with the Moody's adjusters, and we just got back a couple weeks ago that they're going to maintain the credit rating that we have, and so that's good news. So even with the fiscal outlays we had because of Hurricane Helene, having to front some costs, even with that impact on our budget, that did not have a negative impact on our credit rating for the city, which makes me feel a little better about outside agencies looking at our fiscal policy and knowing that it's in a good place.
So, so before Ms. Clifford starts, let me just say, we can definitely say this is a positive thing from GovSense. This is fantastic. This is much better. I'm telling you, trust me, guys, this is night and day. Very well. If y'all would, there's going to be a lot of information he's going to go over. If you would make a note and just write your question down, let him go through this presentation, and then we'll go around the horn like we always do. And you can ask specific questions. The director here, if they need to answer something, but let's don't interrupt it. Just kind of write your question on the writing here so he can get through. Is that fair to everybody? All right, all yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next slide. So this is the budget calendar. We're at the top of the calendar here on the 29th. I don't believe we're going to need a second session tomorrow evening, but I did direct the directors and the senior managers not to make family plans tomorrow night, so if this has to bleed over into Tuesday evening, we're prepared to do so, but I think we can get this knocked out this evening. We published the public hearing notice on the 2nd. The budget hearing itself is October 20th, so it's a lot of time between getting an initial presentation, getting citizen feedback, and then having the first reading, which is October 20th, and then we'd have the second reading on the 3rd of November with the publishing of the public notice of enacted budget on the 5th of November, which is well in time for the requirement to be done by the end of the year. And so ultimately, if you remember from last year, we had to push our budget cycle all the way into December for our second reading because of the hurricane and all the things we're dealing with there. So this just allows us to have some flexibility that if there was an event or something that happened, we weren't able to have council meetings for whatever reason, that we have some flexibility to push those items further on. But my goal is to try to get through and have this ready for your presentation and passage by early November. Next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the general fund budget drivers are this calendar year. Some of these are things that you and I have no effect over. And the top line is certainly one of those. So we did not take as large of an increase in PIBA as we did the previous year. Last year was 10.5%. So this year's a 4% increase in PIBA insurance costs to all governments in South Carolina. That's just the cost of doing business here within the state. I listed a 2% COLA for all city employees. Orchard recommended 3.5 to 3.6. The largest budget driver in this budget is the additional of 4 personnel to include the animal control person that the mayor talked about, but I'll go through the additional personnel. And again, this is general fund only. If you did, and this is all going to drive ourselves to having a small millage increase, and if you wanted to have a flat budget, the easiest way to make that a flat budget is you get rid of those 4 personnel, because then I can balance the budget to the baseline that way. We're also going to continue to move from the transition from lease purchase to outright purchase. We have a slide that's going to show you what that looks like and why we're doing it. And also vehicle expenditures are high. This year we've got a high spike year, and so that includes 11 vehicles for public safety, public works as a backhoe, and we've got some light duty pickup trucks sprinkled throughout the rest of the city, but those are cost drivers as well. One of the things also that we're increasing from a financial perspective is the property maintenance contract service. So when we do different contracts, and so Councilman, to your point about the halo signs, we like to do a proof of concept before we go all in on something. And so this was something that property maintenance did, and they had a $30,000 contract that they went out to bid for and had lawn services cutting down a number of parks. That worked very well. And so we'd like to increase that service elsewhere here within the city, and so that's in there. And then also we're adding some money to the downtown development line, just so we have some additional flexibility. We had to pick up costs associated with watering the flower pots. That's a set cost, along with other flexible items we can have for O&M purposes. This is not to replace the downtown development line. That's capital project sales tax 5. This is more kind of day in and day out activities. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about lease purchase. I know this is a lot of numbers on the slide. I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible. So one of the things that we looked at, and this is not a indictment on the previous councils that were seated. I think they made good financial decisions based on the information they had at the time. And lease purchase, basically, just like you would if you're going to a car dealership as a regular person, you may not have 40 or 50 or 60 or whatever a car costs these days in the bank, and so ultimately you get a loan and you get the car for a period of 6 or 7 years, and then you own the car outright. And the city was doing very much that, and it made a lot of fiscal sense when the interest rates were 1% and 2%. It's very easy to cross over a lot of those costs across multiple years because you get a very low cost loan. But as inflation started to go up and the Fed ratcheted rates, we could see that going from 1.5% or 1 3/4% interest rate and starting to climb to 3, 4s, and possibly even 5s at some point in time. We had some concerns about the cost of the interest on the general fund budget. And as a largely fiscal conservative, I do not like using general fund dollars to pay for interest payments if I don't have to. And so starting in fiscal year 24, which is where you have that line there on the right-hand side, we started to move to the outright purchase of vehicles and get away from the lease purchase program. And if we maintain this fiscal policy, fiscal year 27, you're debating 26 right now. So one more year, we'll still have lease purchase vehicles that we'll be buying out throughout the rest of their interest time, and then that will be done. And so what you're seeing here, what's circled in blue underneath the highlighted area shows you how much money is out of the general fund going to lease purchase, and that is trending, in my opinion, in the right direction. So we peaked there in 2023, which is kind of what caught our attention. And so now you can see we went to 1.6 mil down to just a little over 1.1 million, and now we're under $1 million under lease purchase, and that'll tail out over 27. And then a highlighted area is how much money we save in a calendar year or fiscal year based on interest rates that are reflected there that Linda went through and did a market survey on. So by doing this purchase outright, we're saving money and giving us a lot of space or additional space in the general fund to be able to buy other things, other capabilities. Next slide. So these are the personnel additions, and this is general fund only, not any other enterprise funds, just the general fund. So my number one ask is for a solicitor. We have a serious backlog of cases, jury trial cases here in the city of North Augusta. And so ultimately, based on the amount of work that administration has Kelly doing as a city attorney, it's not enough. We're definitely at a point now we probably should have a solicitor a year ago, but I didn't act on it quickly enough. But this year we definitely need to add a solicitor to be able to work through the jury trial backlog that we have. The city of Aiken has, I think, 1 or 2 part-time solicitors. Other municipalities across the state have a separate solicitor from the city attorney. And so that is the number one requirement that the staff, or at least that I'm coming to you with. I believe the mayor would agree with that. So that's our number one. The second is for a dispatch supervisor. The third is for a public safety headquarters station sergeant. And the last is the animal control tech, which is not a PSO. Now it would be a mid-year start in order to balance the books to get us there. We're also looking to restructure a number of our positions within the city. So 2 of those are in Parks and Rec. And so anytime we basically take somebody's job description and add to it, we have to have the ability to potentially move them on grade if it's required. And so for 2 of those are in Parks and Rec. One is for a center program coordinator to go to a program coordinator, and that person is to assist with senior programming. That's something that the city council has talked about for a number of months over this last calendar year. And so the staff has responded with this additional responsibility to a program coordinator, and also to become one of the other program coordinators to deal with additional sports that they did not have to deal with previously. Within the finance department, we're taking our tax clerk and making them responsible for not just tax, but also accounts receivable. And then we're also restructuring 2 of the tourism folks, Jen Goldman and Derek. And so the reason why we're doing that as well is when you start thinking about Jen and what we've got her doing has to do with podcasting duties and doing a lot of audiovisual things that were not part of the original post. That's not just looking at the mayor about his podcast. It's just saying that she's got a lot more functions that she's doing now than we originally hired her for. What I would like to do, though, is keep this over to Chief for a moment. I'd like you to talk, if you could, Chief, about why we have a requirement for the dispatch supervisor and the public safety headquarters station sergeant and what they're going to do within the department.
So the dispatch supervisor, let me give you a layout of what we currently have. We currently have 8 dispatchers. One of those is the TAC. That's the Terminal Agency Coordinator, which has to coordinate with SLED, SLED regulates all the information that comes in and out through all the computers that we have. So that's a day shift person so that they can take care of that. The rest of them are divided up into 4 shifts, 1 per shift. And then we have 3 others that we call them floaters, but they work a schedule so that they can cover the busiest times. However, there are moments where we don't have but 1 dispatcher in there. In a city our size, if you catch 2 things going on at one time, major calls, you only have 1 person in there to answer the phone. And the second part of that is if you have 1 person scheduled and they call out sick that day, we have to pull from an officer to work dispatch. As dispatch becomes more technologically advanced and the requirements become greater, I think we're placing the city at higher risk and the residents at higher risk by having an officer off the street in there having to cover dispatch. And what this will do, our plan is we'll have the TAC will still be the dispatch supervisor, and then we'll be able to have 2 per shift. That way there's always going to be 1 working in dispatch, and no officers will have to be in dispatch, is the goal for that. The Public Safety Headquarters Station Sergeant. As many of you know, when we were on Buena Vista, we had the fire station and the police station main headquarters were one place. So our station sergeant, he was in charge of the fire sergeant. He took care of the fire trucks and that. He was also a person that was there when somebody came in if they needed something, and he was also there to take care of fleet maintenance because all the vehicles were at headquarters, and that's where we ran our fleet out of. However, since we transitioned to a new station on Martintown and the headquarters on Georgia Avenue, we no longer have that person functioning those roles. But also what we want to tack onto this is the court security. We have court every morning up there at headquarters between different people have court scheduled out and different judges come different days of the week. But every morning, and someone has to stay there from the time the first person comes in court until court is over, because everyone who comes in has to be run through the metal detector, make sure they're not bringing anything in. And so that's an officer that we had to pull off the street currently to do that. When Mike Strauss was animal control, that was part of his duties that he had to do. And I mean, we all know how busy animal control is. And we just want to be able to have a person that's there at the station every day to take care of that court security. But what else can they do? When people come in to report crime in the lobby, we have to call an officer in off the street to take that report. Whereas if you already have somebody there, they can take it, and we can keep the officers out. And also, this will be a person to take over that fleet manager like we talked about, who's at the station, knows which cars are what, which cars need work, which one's ready to be used as a spare when someone has to get their car serviced so that they can be up and running, ready to go.
I think really the big takeaway, at least from the administrator's chair, is that this isn't adding 2 PSOs around the street, but what it does is maximizes the PSOs that we have, so they're not getting pulled off of their primary duty, which may be patrol or calls for service, and doing a lot of other things. So this really frees up our road officers and other officers to be able to deal with things as they come. So I cannot afford right now to add 1 public safety officer per shift. There's 4 shifts. In any one fiscal year, that's a high lift. But we can afford to do this. And if you've been in, and not necessarily allowed to be in dispatch, but I've certainly been in dispatch when multiple things are going, and I've got 2 dispatchers that are actively working the phones. And when you have a larger event, and Helene's a great example of that, they quickly get overrun on the number of calls they receive. So we have to be able to maintain the ability to have 2 dispatchers in there pretty much at all time, and we do not have any capability to guarantee that at this point. So we've been making it, and that's okay, but I don't want to make it. I want to make sure that there's a guarantee that every time you call 911 that you're going to get a live person on the phone and not get put on hold. So in bold are personnel additions, and not in bold are restructures of existing personnel, which is a much lower cost to the general fund budget. Next slide. This is just some highlights. This is not an all-inclusive list, but I'll talk a little bit about this of things that we're either life cycling or that we're adding to departments. So Parks and Rec, they're getting a life cycle of a light-duty pickup truck. They're getting some specialty mowing attachments that have to do with the athletic fields. They have to life cycle replace various golf carts and gator vehicles to operate maintenance and on the greenway. We're adding some additional money to the country club maintenance budget so it can be cut a little more frequently. And then also we've determined that the greenway water fountains basically need to be replaced, and we have money in the budget to do 4 of those going in. Under property maintenance and public services has most of their items listed in enterprise funds, but this is the one part of public services that's in the general fund, and that's property maintenance. So that's a replacement of their pickup trucks, 48-inch mower, the water tanker trailer for the work that has to do with that. And then most importantly, the landscape maintenance contract, which goes from $30,000, just about doubles it, from $30,000 to $58,000. Might be a little harder to read within the budget because it's kind of put together with the mulch. But when I had Linda break that out, I wanted to show you, hey, this is the change to the landscaping contract line itself. So it may be a little hard to divine that from the budget document, but I wanted to break it out a little more cleanly for you all so you know what we're doing here. And then under Public Works, this is replacing a backhoe and trailer for Tom. This would be shared, at least in the near term, for stormwater and for streets and trains. And then also we want to replace some wayfinding signs. There was a initiative within the capital project sales tax that was wayfinding signs, but that's a holistic, getting a design firm to come in and figure out what it's going to look like, and redoing all the signs in the city essentially. But what we're seeing right now is a lot of the North Augusta signs are cracked, faded, peeling. I've had multiple feedback loops from the city council about, hey, this sign doesn't look particularly good. Is there anything you can do about it? And as we'll send crews out there to pressure wash it, but at the end of the day, a lot of those signs are beyond the end of lifespan. So Tom's got a plan here to do a lot of the signage, the existing signage, the way it looks today, just replacing it with new signs so we can get a decent amount of looking going forward and not have to worry about those things flaking and peeling and basically becoming unreadable. That's not a good look for the city either as you come into our gateways. And lastly, under public safety, 11 replacement vehicles, 9 of which are marked, 2 are unmarked. What we're essentially doing is, through this plan, is we're going to be able to get rid of the Ford Explorers that are in the fleet and go to Chevrolet only. It's probably going to end up being a mix of Tahoes and pickup trucks, depending on what the vehicle availability is through Chevrolet. But what we have found is that the Ford Explorer is not as durable as the Tahoe. It has much higher maintenance costs later in the life. And so ultimately, to be able to have the most amount of bang for the buck and get the most lifespan of those vehicles, we're finding the Tahoes and the pickups right now have the best longevity. So we want to get rid of the, and these are not Ford Explorers that are at early life cycle. We're talking about Fords that are at the end of their life cycle, but when we replace them, we're not going to be doing a Ford or a Durango. The Durangos will fine for the SROs because they're not on a patrol every day. But for the vehicles that are on patrol, that are out there on a 12-hour shift, the experience we have from the department is that the Chevrolet brand is the better option. And we actually did a sit down with the enterprise fleet management folks to hear their proof of concepts. I know Edgefield County uses them for their sheriff's department. And they said the best cost of ownership police vehicle right now is the Chevy Tahoe. So I feel good about moving forward on that item. And then there's a number of items in there. Chief had this in his budget last year, which he got, but the fire hose replacements, you can't replace all the fire hoses in 1 year. It just costs a lot of money. So that's one way to get after some of those fire hoses. Same thing with the SWAT shield replacements, the multi-gas detector kits new. Fire hydrant adapters is something that we're picking away at every year. So this is something that allows us to update the fire hydrants, the older ones. And then also the PPV fan. Chief made an impassioned pitch for this piece of gear, and he used the example of the fire that had occurred at the Ledges senior living apartments there on Ponce de Leon, or near Ponce de Leon. And what that would allow it to do is to vent a large apartment building or allow it to get smoke out of the hallway, because that was a real factor for the senior citizens as they were getting evacuated out of the Ledges. So this was a real world example of, hey, this is a piece of kit we could have used during an event, so that made it into the budget. Next slide. And a lot of people request things, and not everything makes it past the administrator. So I want to make sure that you, as the council, can see where my red pen was. And so the first was within public safety. They asked for, in addition to what's funded, but what did not get funded this year, was a fire lieutenant and 5 PSOs. And then under equipment, drones, the drug scanner, fire planning software. There's a less lethal shotgun round that the city would like to have at some point in time. They've asked for updates to the indoor firing range. I'm going to make a specific request through the state of South Carolina through the Military Enhancement Fund next year for that, because that's a large ask. It's going to be close to $1 million, and so that is definitely not going to go into the general fund. And then they asked for a number of replacement vehicles. They asked for 24 total. I'm finding 11. Next slide. Parks and Rec asked for some additional personnel for maintenance workers, both indoors and outdoors. They asked for a Gator, and they also asked for an F-250, but the current F-150 that they have, I believe, still has some life left in it. And so what we're doing is they had another pickup truck that needed to be replaced, and so we're moving that down to a Ford Maverick. I would tell you that we have good feedback from code enforcement and public works, and I've seen these out amongst a lot of other cities. So they're smaller vehicles are on a car chassis, but they get great gas mileage, and the overall have been a good fit. So last year was our first year buying the Mavericks. We wanted to see if we had good feedback on those, or if we had to upgrade those to the Ford Rangers. But essentially, the Ford Maverick has been a good fit for a lot of our city departments. So we'll continue to do that, at a significant cost savings as opposed to larger pickup trucks. Next slide. Tourism asked for a number of things. The two items which I think can move into the capital projects fund. So One is a flooring project to replace the flooring in the Palmetto Terrace, which is upstairs. So if you've been up there, the carpet's looking kind of worn and dated. I think doctrinally that's part of what the capital project fund is for, is capital improvements on existing facilities or maintenance on facilities. And so I'm going to recommend to put that in the CPF. And then the community center boiler, which is the heating unit, where the city council has funded previous iterations of the cooling units, the HVAC units that are on the roof, but not the heating element, which is a much smaller cost than the cooling units, but that's still something that I believe should go in the capital projects fund. I denied the request to repave the parking lot and some of the cameras they asked for, denied those as well, as along with they wanted to make some changes to the amphitheater building where the bathrooms are to add a green room, denied that. And then also they asked for additional funding for JOJ and River event, and I said we're going to hold those at the current level of funding based on the general fund. Next slide. Planning and development, also, this is something that I believe I've talked to the council about. We're required by law to have a updated comprehensive plan every 10 years. So you have to do an update at the 5-year mark, and you have to do a full plan at the 10-year mark. The 10-year mark for us is summer of 2027. And so that's something that's going to get funded out of the capital projects fund. And then they have some other plans that have been on there for a while, but have denied the 5-notch road plan and the Route 78 East Martintown Road plan. I also think that from a planning density perspective, it's not reasonable to assume that the planning staff can handle 2 simultaneous plans. They're going to be all in on the comprehensive plan when that comes time. So I don't think they're going to have the manpower. So even if you funded it, I don't think I have the ability to execute those plans. So we'll leave those on the back burner. It's something that we can consider in future calendar years, but I don't think we ought to do those in this year. And then we had a lot of other smaller projects. We talked about doing access control here on the 3rd floor. We're not going to be able to fund that this year. Same thing with camera replacements. And then the courts had asked for some additional personnel, but I'm not prepared to recommend that yet until we see, what our court backlog is going to look like after we get the solicitor in and see what that course load is going to look like or caseload is going to look like. Next slide. And then we've updated some of our fee schedules. If it's in bold, it's a change. If it's not bolded, it's the same as it was last year. So there's some minor increase in the recreation programs. But as far as the memberships, those are unchanged. In city, out of city, and senior rates are the same. Next slide. Facility rental fee schedule. These are largely the same. I did not bold them because you can't do a one-to-one comparison because we changed some of the facilities that were available, specifically in the community center. But just wanted to show everybody these are the facility rental rates here for tourism. Next slide. Wastewater fee schedule. So we're updating the charges or fees associated with this for monthly charges and additional usage. This is largely tied to an increase in fees that we're receiving from the Horse Creek facility, which raises their rates, at the same time in the summer because they're a summer cycle folks. So their rates went into effect 1 July. So we're actually operating kind of in a deficit state. We're not below our thresholds, but we take a hit every 6 months every time they raise rates. So this will allow us to kind of equalize. But regardless, we're going to have to raise our wastewater rates because of the Horse Creek. We're a pass-through. So you might have a reasonable question from the citizen that says, why are we raising rates? Is this paying for all the utility work that's going on right now with the relining of the pipes and all that? And the answer is no. Those are fully funded through ARPA and through grants, through RIA. So it has nothing to do with the wastewater fee schedule. This has everything to do with the rates that are charged to the city and other service providers through Horse Creek. Next slide. We also have changes to the water fee schedule. So we're going to leave the monthly minimum charges the same, but you're going to see increases in usages over 1,000 gallons. What, 3,000? Over 3,000, thank you, per 1,000. Next slide. So there are some changes to the fee structure for water and wastewater, so I wanted to talk to you about that as well. So we talked about personnel to the general fund, but we're also going to talk about personnel for the water fund, the enterprise fund. So again, if you look at the cup over here, this cup is the water cup. This cup is the wastewater cup. So under the water cup, we're adding some additional folks. The top two positions there are finance people, and the bottom two people are James Sutton's utility type people. But I also want to say, even though I talk about the fact that you can't cross cups, what you can do is you can charge people to different accounts. So for example, some city personnel are charged to the general fund, but also charged to enterprise funds based on the work that they have. So for example, Tom Zezer can be charged partially to the stormwater fund because he oversees the stormwater department, but the vast majority of his salary comes out of the general fund because that's where most of his work is. And so likewise, you can take somebody like the maintenance worker and say, hey, most of his work is going to be operating in this facility, and that facility deals with this fund. But he also is supporting another facility, and a quarter of his time is in this fund. So that's how we kind of spread it out. It's not used to balance the budget per se. We use that based on where that person works and what their duties are to figure out which fund they ought to be paid out of. And so I'm going to go ahead and have Linda talk a little bit about the first two people that are involved in this, and then James Sutton is going to come up to the podium and talk about the operator trainee and the maintenance worker 3. So Linda, if you can educate the council on what this does for the water finance department.
Okay, first off, the customer service representative 2 will be responsible for managing incoming customer calls and assisting with a wide range of service-related inquiries to include billing questions and issues, initiating new service, transferring or closing existing accounts, and redirecting customers to the appropriate department for concerns outside of customer service. Now, the impact with having them added will be that this will ensure a callback return time of 24 hours or less for all of our customer service calls, improving response time and overall customer satisfaction. With the growing number of rental properties in the area, the volume of requests for new service setups and service transfers has increased significantly. There's a noticeable trend in shorter durations of occupancy, leading to more frequent account changes and customer service interactions. The position will directly support the finance department by reducing response delays and increasing operational efficiency. For the billing clerk position, this will play a critical role in improving the accuracy and responsiveness of the billing process by proactively detecting potential water leaks and contacting customers for prompt investigation and resolution, which will reduce the time required to apply bill credits, identifying meter misreads caused by manual reading errors or meter malfunctions. The billing clerk will initiate rereads or meter changeouts before bills are printed, reducing the need for customer-reported corrections. Supporting reporting and tracking for meter replacements by assisting James with necessary reports and data organization. Coordinating all meter changeouts, ensuring customers' bills are accurate and not adversely affected during or after the transition. Impact on this for the finance department will enhance customer trust through proactive communication and issue resolution. It will reduce billing errors, therefore lowering the number of billing disputes and follow-up calls. And by identifying and addressing issues earlier in the process, the department can operate more smoothly and provide a higher service reliability.
Mayor, Council, the Environmental Systems Operator Trainee, that's a license by the state water production worker. We have a total of 8 full-time employees that work at the water production, and they all carry a state license to work there. This position here is a trainee's position. They'll come in, they'll initially won't have to have a license. They'll go take an exam to become a trainee, get certified, and start working their way through the system. This position is important to the operations. Right now, those 8 employees rotate 12-hour shifts. Here recently, we had lost one of our long-term employees who passed. A week later, another one of our 20-plus year employees who was going to retire next year decided he was going to retire the following week. And we also have one employee who's on long-term leave right now, which has very much stressed operations in our water plant. We have 5 full-time employees who are rotating long shifts, 16 hours plus, to keep our water plant going and keep water pumping through the pipes for the citizens. This position is just not going to be a redundant position. They're also going to perform maintenance in the plant and other areas, painting and such, to make improvements to our water plant as well. Moving on, the maintenance worker, that's basically right now we have a janitorial service. We're paying about $18,000 a year to maintain 2 buildings, and they're doing it 1 day per week. That's our utility operations on Clay Pit Road and our water plant on Hammond's Ferry. We're going to add 2 more facilities to this employee here if it's approved. We're going to add the recycling facility and our fleet maintenance shop as well. In addition, they're going to perform general repairs to the building and pressure wash vehicles and equipment, and do basic work around the facility every day instead of once per week. When you add it up, if we throw those other 2 facilities in there, it would be about $35,000 per year just for 1 week per building. So it's going to be a benefit to have somebody full time, and it'll be a savings to the city as well with them doing some of the maintenance without a contract having to come in and do it.
Then under wastewater, as we discussed, as you know, really the increase is the Horse Creek facility is changing those rates, and I would anticipate, you know, what I've seen is that they're talking about having kind of incremental rate increases for a while. So we may end up continuing to have to do this year over year. We are going to be tied to whatever rate increases that the Horse Creek facility does. Next slide. So I just wanted to put up some information about, you know, the water bill and then what that looks like and the rates relative to, you know, an average customer, and then what those increases are, and then, you know, where we sit relative to other water authorities, to include the city of Aiken. And you can see that our, you know, even with the updated rates, that we're still very competitive, meaning under most of the other water authorities here in the region. So we're trying to be very sparing about doing rate increases. We're not doing this to build a lot of extra capital in this enterprise fund. We're doing this just to pay O&M and our personnel costs as we go with that. So we're trying to make sure that we're still on the low end of the region as far as the cost to our citizens for water in particular, because we have direct control over that. Next slide. For stormwater fees, no change. Next slide. Fire protection fee, no change. Next slide. Sanitation fee. We're recommending a $3 increase per month inside the city for residential. And you can see that puts us at $24.44 a month, which is still lower than Aiken and Augusta. Next slide. Go back, please. So also to talk about sanitation. So there was a philosophical discussion within the city staff about, you know, whether we could take some of those sanitation fee increases and drop those to a lower level. And so that would be based on any kind of revenue that we get from the transfer station, because the transfer station could potentially defray some costs. But at this point in time, I don't have hard data to tell you this is exactly how much revenue we're going to get from the transfer station line. And so what I don't want to do is put the city in a position where, hey, we have some maybes, we've had some interest, which isn't the same thing as actual revenue coming in. I believe we are going to have revenue coming in from the transfer station line. But what I'm proposing to you is if we increase rates this year, we should be able to stabilize that rate for the next several years, and that any money we make from the transfer station will be able to offset capital expenditures, meaning replacement trucks. And also, if the city does pass the second reading of the impact fees, that also contributes to additional trucks for the sanitation section within public services. So that will allow us to basically ratchet at that point and then hold that cost. I think we'll be able to maintain that rate for several years because we'll have transfer station revenue driving the capital outlays or defraying the capital outlays in the out years. Next slide. So going back to the general fund, well, in order to fund the things that are in your packets and that are basically going through this presentation it's a $2 million increase. And so what does that look like? And so Linda's pulled some of the basic numbers, and for those of you who've sat on council for a while, you're familiar with the slide. For new council members, what we try to do is take, a median look at, what does this impact taxpayer in the city of North Augusta. And so on a $305,000 house, a tax increase would be an annual basis for $24 on their property taxes, and that would be also increases on their vehicles. And so for a brand new vehicle, it would be a $7 increase. If it was an SUV, or just about $3.50 or thereabouts on a vehicle that's a sedan. Next slide. So every year we get a letter from the Department of Revenue. This is probably a new slide for most of you. The South Carolina state government limits how many mills you can increase on any given calendar year, so that city administrators can't go bonkers and say, hey, you need a 20 mil increase. And so ultimately you have the data there. This is a direct pull from the memorandum we got from the Department of Revenue. It essentially says you can go just about up to 5 mills is what you'd be authorized to go in this calendar year or fiscal year going forward. And we're not recommending at that level, we're recommending it 2. Next slide. Also really wanted to talk, and this is more education for the newer council members. I know the existing council members or previously seated council members are aware of this. In order to do a COLA, 1% of COLA across the funds, it's a total cost of $168,000. So that's general fund is the largest at $121,000, and then it gets cross-leveled across all those other funds at those levels you can see there. But I also wanted to show, if you go back to on the right-hand side of your slide, based on the forensics that I've done, it appears that the city in around the 2008 timeframe, when the nation had its fiscal crisis, stopped doing COLAs in any kind of substantial way and went to a bonus structure at Christmas time. And while that was enormously popular in the short term, that did not do well for the overall wage structure within the city. And so when I came on board, and you can see going back 2017, Archer recommended, and Archer's not the end all be all of all, all recommendations, but that's just a benchmark. And so they'd recommended, small increases 20 through 20 or 17 through 21. And we were 0% in all those. And I'll claim 0% in 2021 just because we were still kind of in the midst of COVID and we really had no idea what our revenue line was going to look like in that year. But then the following year, we started looking at it from an employee perspective and said, okay, we really got to start getting caught up because inflation is starting to ratchet pretty significantly. And you can see there we've started to do COLAs incrementally, but in a meaningful way, starting in 2022, moving the ball. And this year you see the 2% COLA, where Archer recommended 3.5 to 3.6%. So late breaking news, next slide. So the packet that you received on Friday, and this presentation was built on a 2% COLA. We've had some additional deliberations with the directors, and when asked, they all volunteered to essentially put equipment or projects on the table in order to get a COLA for the personnel to increase from 2 to 3%. And so in order to do that, I can do that by taking one, and I think we can accept the risk there, and Chief would agree. It's not ideal, but I can make do with 10 vehicles instead of 11 within public safety, and that largely pays for a COLA increase from 2 to 3% for our city's workforce. And so the packet that you have that you received on Friday does not reflect that COLA. It reflects 11 vehicles and a 2% COLA. We'll have to rework the documentation, but we could go to a 3% COLA with one less public safety vehicle in essence. So that would be my final recommendation going here today. Next slide. Okay, I gave you a lot of data, hopefully some coffee cup education. I'm ready to drink my liter bottle of Diet Coke. And so if you have, I would ask you if you have macro type questions, large big picture questions, myself or JD or Linda will be able to handle those. If you have very specific department questions, hey, why is it this way in your department? Then the directors are prepared to answer your questions here from the lectern. Mr. Mayor, I turn the floor back to you.
Let's just go around the horn. We'll start at this end. Dennis, you go first. Questions you have, and then we'll just go all the way around.
How much of have we completely depleted the settlement fund as far as the toxic settlement fund?
Are you talking about the DOE settlement fund?
Yes.
No. So there is, from a principal perspective, there's still $35 million of DOE settlement fund that's available. $20 million is earmarked for the new Savannah Bluff Lock and Dam, and $15 million is earmarked for cyber infrastructure. We have fully executed the vast majority of the principal on the transfer station, and as you've gotten interest, so the actions you're getting as a council is for the interest that is accrued from the money that's sitting in the bank. And those interest payments are defraying some of the sanitation costs and things associated with the transfer station. But we are not using those at this time against other, like I said, I'm not going out and buying fire trucks with interest money because I don't want to have the state come back and call that money back home if we use it in a way that is not amenable to the state. So we're lining those up, those three specific categories is how we're spending those interest dollars now. But to answer your basic question, yes, we still have approximately $35 million of principal in the bank for DOE settlement money, which does not include the opioid settlement funds that Chief talked about with Margaret.
So this might be a better question for Aiken County than you, Mr. Clifford, but Aiken County is getting all these increases in all over their waterworks, plus the impact fees for like $2,600 to tie into the sewer system now.
Well, that impact fee doesn't go to the county. The impact fee would come to the city.
No, I mean the county charging an individual impact fee to tie into the sewer system as well.
If it's in the city limits, I'm not sure that an impact fee applies. It would be, we apply our own impact fees within the city limits. I don't believe the county has an impact fee. What they charge us that is felt by everybody is, you know, the usage, the gallons that flow into that system.
Okay, understood. And not for anybody in here, but for the citizens. Hey, look, y'all, you got your senior activities coordinator. You need to show up and make use of it. You've got your Friends in North Augusta senior group started now. You need to show up and make use of it. And if you want a senior center in the future, this is how you get it done.
All right, David.
Just a few like budget questions. So under our community promotions, this is more of just, you know, from my knowledge. Previous years we spent 30,000, 20,000, and this year we're not spending any.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm just curious. I mean, what was that for?
Because your city administrator did not feel comfortable with the process that the community funds were being distributed.
Okay, that was money that we would donate to different organizations.
Correct.
Like that.
And so the question is, why would you donate to one organization and not another? And when you look at something like ATAX, you have a set of state statute which governs the use of ATAX. You as the council appoint a committee to hear recommendations on the use of that ATAX. And so there's a very transparent and open process. And so the previous community grant program, some of those organizations, to include like the Wrecking Crew, can apply for ATAX money because that involves tourism. So not all of them are, they may have a different source of funding as opposed to a community grant foundation. But ultimately what was happening before was yours truly was sitting here making, you know, decisions about your, you know, citizens' money, about which nonprofit organizations was getting tax dollars. And I wasn't comfortable with that. So that's why that has now come out of the budget.
That's the one we talked about.
That's right. Yeah, I just kind of wanted just to clarify that that's what that was. Also under streets and drains, under supplies, we went from 25 grand last year to asking what 66,000 this year. I'm just curious.
I'm sure Tom Zizer would love to answer that question.
I'm just curious what the big increase is for. All right, that is on general fund, page 40. It's a special.
That is largely,
supplies.
that request is largely includes the $41,000 to refurbish the wayfinding signage system that Jim discussed earlier.
Yep, I saw that. And can you explain the wayfinding signs a little bit more in detail? What those?
So the original wayfinding system throughout the city, there's those consist of there's city limit signs, there's some directional signs. You see some downtown that have multiple panels on them with arrows pointing to different destinations.
That's what I thought.
That's the wayfinding system, and this it's a decorative signage system that was almost entirely installed, I think, as part of CPST 1. And those signs were all installed in the very early 2000s, like 2005, 6. So they're 20 or so years old.
Yeah, okay. That's what I figured. All right, thanks.
Follow-up question to Mr. Zizer on that particular topic is, do we have these wayfinding signs at all road entrances to the city?
Yeah, we have what we call those gateway signs at all the primary entrances to the city. With the exception, there used to be one in the median right here on Georgia Avenue, and that got targeted by vehicles on more than one occasion. And so that sign ultimately, and it caused some sight obstruction at the intersection with Center Street when you're trying to, anyway, that sign ultimately got removed. But that's the only gateway that currently does not have a sign on it.
And is there one at exit 1?
Yes.
There is.
Yes.
Many communities have large gateway signs to their community. You can really tell when you're driving into Rock Hill, for example. Right.
Councilman, that would be a CPST style kind of funded event. So I know exactly what you're talking about with Rock Hill, Fort Mill.
Yeah,
there's brick, all the things that go along with that. But that's a major project, not a general fund project.
How are we on at not exit 1, but Highway 1 and 78 for signs that are entering the city? I love the wayfinding signs. I just want to make sure that we're welcoming people to our community. They know they're coming to North Augusta.
Yeah, the US 1 entrance, right, there is not, I think back then there was not a suitable site that could be identified actually in the city that was, I don't recall the exact history of why that wasn't included, but.
One of the bridge overpasses, perhaps?
Well, that would require pretty extensive DOT permitting as part of that, but it certainly could be part of a future expansion under the current CPST.
Yeah. Good questions.
I just got a couple more.
Yeah, take your time.
Parks and Rec, Mr. Meyer, I'm not picking on you, but quick question. On concession stand supplies, that's a big significant increase from 65 grand to
The reason, the reason for that is we're back in the concession business. We have tried the last couple of years to farm that out unsuccessfully, and that's why you see that increase.
So that'll probably be more of a profit for us, I would assume.
Yes.
In-house. And curious about the Peaks Jam. We had last year 362,000. This year, in the previous 2 years, it was 0 as well. I'm just curious about that.
Sure. We're in 2026. We're going to let them be their bank versus us take in their money and pay their bills. Yes.
Smart way to go.
Go ahead.
Mr. Buck, I can answer just a little bit about that. So concession stand supplies going up, the revenue also went up to kind of counteract that. So we did do that. And then for the Peach Jam, last year in the budget, we decided to pull that out of tournaments line items. So that's why you see the zeros in the previous years, because it was up under a different account. So last year was the first year we pulled that out by itself. And now this year we're going to a different format of how we're going to do the Peach Jam this year.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
I'll have 2 more and I'm done. I promise.
Take your time.
Mr. Sutton, talking about the new maintenance worker, maybe cleaning some buildings, things like that. Can they clean other buildings in the city that are city owned?
Sure.
Yeah. And sorry,
Slow down, brother. You no rush.
that is. And Chief, talking about the color raise with 1%, we can afford not having that extra car. I mean, it doesn't move the needle.
Yes, sir, we can make that sacrifice.
That's all.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, don't have a lot, but that is a good segue. I am not advocating more of a tax increase, so I want to preface the question. But what would the impact be if we moved up to the 3.5, which is the minimum Archer recommendation for COLA, and included the vehicle, which again we could survive without, but it's not.
Can we go back on the slides a couple of?
Yeah, I tried to figure it out from that slide in my head, but it's either too late or I'm not smart enough.
There you are. There. So the total COLA cost for 1% is $168,000 across all funds. So within the general fund, if you wanted to do a 0.5%, that would be just over $60,000 impact on the general fund, which is about $500,000. Or just under $500,000 to be able to make that work.
So to go to 3.5, to go to 3.5, we would add $0.5 million to the baseline budget, which would still include removing that vehicle. So to include that vehicle back in, effectively, it'd be $1 full mil.
That's correct.
Approximately.
Yeah, so one vehicle is about $100,000. Public safety
So
vehicle.
$1.5 million then roughly if you included both of those.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, Ms. Pat?
Sorry, my bad. They will get a 3% raise.
If you vote for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we vote for it, yeah, because that's what I said. I think they should have the 3% to begin with. And then the watering the plants downtown. Now, I thought, what was that, Cold Creek was doing that. Has the city been watering those
No, we're not
plants?
watering, we're paying for the water.
Oh, paying for somebody to water them, okay. So Cold Creek has never just watered them because we like y'all.
No.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, now the animal tech person. And no, I just want to say, he'll be there, or she, whichever, like 5 days a week? Or?
Councilwoman, it's a full-time position. I'm going to defer to Chief about how he's going to want to implement the work schedules, but understanding the reason why we're adding a second person is because Craig cannot work 7 days a week.
Right. That's what I said, like on the weekends, I know they go and walk the dogs, and Officer McBride is not there on the weekends. So will this person cover those weekends?
If we want him to, that's what we're
Yeah,
doing
that's
it
what I'm
for.
saying. I just
Yes.
want him to be in his 7 days.
Absolutely. It doesn't do us any good to get him on there if he can't do work
Now,
weekends.
to Rick, so one of our employees will become the senior instead of, like Amber and all of our group, they have their programs. Will
It's
one of those
additional
become
responsibilities.
one of the already there?
Existing employees,
Okay,
yes.
all right, okay. And all right, now the tourism coordinator and the tourism and marketing coordinator, will their pay go up recognizing them in these positions?
So when I have
Okay,
a
work.
slide that says restructuring, that means an increase in responsibilities and an increase in pay.
Okay, good. All right, and the golf carts, that's the old ones are gonna be fixed up, because one I rode on last year was awful. I mean, it not only
Replacement.
me, but older people go to the ball game.
Right, they're replacement golf carts, be new, brand new
So
golf
those
carts.
new old ones are
Yeah,
gone.
replacing, the old ones.
But just to be fair, I don't think that replaces all the golf carts. It's on a
Well, I
replacement
thought we had
schedule.
two, did we?
Two.
Yeah,
Yes.
two. All right, and then Mr. Chief Johnson over there, the firing range, that was a no. Is that the firing range at Fire Station 2? So, some ways I had in my head, we had worked on that a year or two ago, but, so it's still like it was
It is.
12 years ago.
So, Councilwoman, there's multiple improvements that need to be made at Fire Station 2. So one of them is the roof apparatus
Yeah, I remember
structure, which is
those,
part of CPSD 5. But we are working to potentially tie into the state of South Carolina military enhancement funds for that. So we're going to have to make a proposal.
Because that's a needed thing, I think.
I agree. Well, and the reason why it would be beneficial to have the state pay for it is because it's in partnership with Fort Gordon, and their personnel use that range.
Yeah, that's okay. And now, Carl, what is the green room at the amphitheater? I don't know what that is.
Yes, ma'am. So the restroom that we have in there,
Yeah.
room that we kind of use as headquarters for
Yeah.
the amphitheater. If you notice, there's some pipes that are stubbed up in there,
Uh-huh.
and we just didn't. They're roughed in for future
Okay.
use, and that was
Okay.
just
So
an
is that
ask.
building?
Yes, ma'am.
Green-
It's that room that faces the actual stage
Yeah.
that we use for
yeah,
headquarters.
that's
Yes,
what
ma'am.
the green room was,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. All right. And let me see. Well, I don't know where I've got. Oh, the fire, this is Chief. This is we've been doing the fire hydrants, flushing them, correct? Now, I noticed on Courtney tonight coming, there's a fire hydrant that's all covered up with black, like just a cover. And I don't know if y'all can, why that is. And I know that's not budget stuff, but while I'm asking,
Anytime you see a black bag on a fire hydrant, it means it's out of service.
out of certain, but
It's
it would
being
be
repaired.
fixed, it'd be
Yes,
repaired.
and public safety is notified of those.
Now, and I hate to be ignorant on this, my whole family's been in car, but a Maverick is a truck.
It's actually on a car chassis, Councilwoman, but it appears to be like a small four-door pickup truck. Go out in the parking lot as you finish the council meeting tonight. Code enforcement, there's one that's labeled out there,
Okay.
and that's a Ford Maverick. It's smaller than the Ford Rangers.
Now and I had page 16. It's got, and I guess, wait a minute, let me get what tonight's budget. 16. Let me ask just one more. I think that's all my questions. Well, where did I do with my? Oh, that's it. Okay, good. And I'm telling you, I'm a forward person. Y'all talking about how good these Chevrolets are. My daddy would turn over in his grave if he knew y'all said that.
Can you put your microphone on, Councilwoman? Councilwoman, can you put your microphone on?
I'm sorry, I thought it was on. I could hear myself. All right, but page 16 of what you gave us tonight. Customers, additional 3.5 full-time people. Now, is that people already that's in there in a part-time position and they go? So
No,
when you said we hired 4 new people,
So
does
when you
that
say,
include those 3.5 too?
no, so there are 4 people that are going into the general fund. That's your property
Okay.
taxes and your business license fee.
Okay,
And 3 of those are beginning of the year start: solicitor, dispatch, public safety station sergeant. The animal control tech is a mid-year start, so sometimes we can say that a half a year
oh,
employee, so it's 3.5, not people, but just from a fiscal perspective, you're paying for 3.5 people in that year. And then on the water side of the house, you have the maintenance tech is actually spread across multiple funds. So the 2 finance people and 1 water trainee is solely in this water bucket.
okay.
But then the maintenance person is half paid out of that
Okay.
and a quarter out of other funds based on the facilities that they're going to service.
Okay. I think that is, if y'all give me 1 second.
Take your time.
I'm sorry. I think that's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Pelack, you're next, young man.
Ms. Carpenter, with all due respect, I'm a Chevy man as well. And Chevys will run 350,000 miles or so I think that's a great choice. Impact fees, Mr. Clifford, budget, I didn't see anything, maybe I missed it. What's the effect of impact fees on the budget?
So the impact fee effect on the budget would be twofold. First, it would affect the enterprise fund, the sanitation fund in particular, because that would go towards the capital associated with the 2 trucks that were listed there in the impact fee study. As far as the impact on the general fund, I don't believe it'll have an impact on the general fund because it's going to go into new parks facilities. So it may offset some things long term, but I would have to get you a better answer. But it's certainly not going to have an impact in this calendar year or fiscal year based on impact fees, because we won't have collected any during we'll start collecting, but we're not going to be able to apply them against projects in this fiscal year.
It was my understanding, if it passed as we discussed, it would be effective November 1st of this year.
That's correct, but that
So
doesn't
we
mean
would be
we're not going to have enough. I didn't say we wouldn't be collecting as I said we wouldn't have enough money to apply against projects and also until we actually, just like we talked about with the transfer station, what I don't want to do is present a budget to the council that is based off assumptions that I can't validate.
Right.
So I'm not entirely sure. We have projections of what the Parks and Rec line would be from impact fees, but until we actually start collecting them, we're not really in a position to say, hey, we can guarantee that we're going to have this level of fee revenue or impact fee revenue for Parks and Rec. So in out years, I would see a larger impact on Parks and Rec, but it's a philosophical question really for the council to consider of, hey, are we going to build a bank, so to speak, and then do larger projects, or are you going to do smaller projects? But that's going to be something that I think we as a staff or you as a council, as we start to go through the impact fee process, to say, hey, this is what our revenue line looks like. These are the rules associated with, specifically with Parks and Rec on impact fees, and here's some recommendations of how you could potentially apply those to Park and Rec facilities.
Very good. And Ms. Williamson, the collection of impact fees, how will that affect your department and tracking of those?
I guess we would take the money in on our side of things, but we will have it'll just be like a cash sale. So when they come in, we'll do journal entries or whatnot to.
And would your additional person be able to, would
That
be part of
would probably
their
not
duties?
be on our additional personnel. It would be one of our already staffed positions that are currently in the finance department, and probably the restructuring of the tax clerk to the accounts receivable clerk. That would probably be a good thing for our item that she would take on as that new.
And are those different accounts, these impact fees, and when they're collected, they're interest-bearing accounts, so they would have a completely different tracking system?
Yes, if we put them in separate accounts, we will track that. But we also, in our general bank account, we do, with the interest that we get from like South State, it gets divided across all funds. So they get their correct amount of interest that they've gained on money that's sitting in a combined fund.
Okay, all right, great. Mr. Myers, some more aerobic exercise for you. Has the activity center, the indoor maintenance people, ever been increased since the new gymnasiums?
Negative.
All right. So, and that's always been a concern of mine, is we continue to add things to the Parks Department, but every time they ask for another person, we're saying no. I'm not real comfortable with that. I think the activity center and the size of it, they're not here, so I don't have to defend them. The age of our maintenance staff, they have a huge job there. I would like to see anything we can do to add some help there for the maintenance side of that building. It continues to get older, and there are always things to do in there. And with the impact fees coming and the focus of the parks fees as well, I would just love to see. I'd love to see that included in the budget if there's any way possible. Secondly, the miscellaneous fees under recreation fees is a huge number. I don't really like miscellaneous fees.
Yeah, it's in tourism.
Oh, sure, it's Carl's fault.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's actually pretty simple. It's just a nomenclature issue in our budget. It's actually revenue generated from Jack Lantern Jubilee, from vendors' fees, ride tickets, and our great sponsors to help put that event on.
So
that entire 117,000 is just miscellaneous. I hate to use that term, but just revenue collected from as a result of Jack Lantern Jubilee only.
Just as a personal point, I would just rather see it named that than miscellaneous, just to see what it is.
Yes, sir.
But that would be it. I think that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Come on now. Okay. All right, y'all have asked great questions. Proud of you. A couple of things. Just want to thank administration directors for your efforts. I think this is a very good budget. I think we're being very prudent with what's being done. So I think that's very positive. I really want to echo Dennis's comment. We get hit a lot, and we're not in a position to talk about a senior center and all that. But I think to kind of add us as additional responsibility, Rick, a senior program coordinator is huge. I just had a lady come upstairs and talk to me about it literally tonight. There's a ton of programs, a ton of services between churches, what we do, what y'all are adding, but no one in the community. She moved here. She has no idea of where anything is. And to have a person coordinate that is a great first step. So that is really, that is huge.
But Mayor, let me ask this, because we are, as John said, adding on more responsibility to one of the program coordinators now, which to me, that senior citizen is going to be a full-time job.
It may be, but we don't, right now we're just making the step. Yeah. So So anyway, I think everybody else asked most of my other questions. Anyway, I think it's a good budget. So,
So, Mr. Mayor, what I've heard is, some individual council comments, and I've noted the ones that I've been able to potentially action, but I've not heard from the council as far as any guidance from a quorum perspective about significant impacts that you want to make to the budget at this time. So you still have time to do it in between now and, the budget hearing and the first reading, but I just wanted to see if there's any feedback from the council as a whole or as a quorum that needed to be addressed before I go ahead and do the second batch of the budget for publication.
I don't have anything. The only thing I would say, I think for next year, I do think one of the things I would like us to have a conversation about, because I've been asked from small businesses, is it'd be nice to have a person, kind of like the senior, at a position to, could help folks when they want to start a business in North Augusta. They're kind of, there's a lot of, it's not as easy as it needs to be, so I don't think that needs to be, we don't need to deal with that now, but that's a conversation we want to have next year. Maybe some of these other things. I think I like the budget as is. So to answer for me, no, I'm fine with everything.
And I think the budget's good and done a great job. But I'm gonna go back to John and Rick. Can we, and I presume John might back me, but can we consider a person for a senior citizen position? Because that is hot news on the streets, plus our, what is it, Aiken Center thing, and Aiken is trying to pull over to North Augusta and make things easier for our seniors. So, I mean, if we could change anything, I would say change that to a new position, not throw it on the employees.
I think I heard two different things from your seat. So I think what you talked about was a senior person, and what I heard from Councilman Felak was more along, somebody who maintains the facility, not a senior citizen coordinator.
Oh, he said maintenance.
I know he's talking about maintenance, but he was talking also, John, wasn't you, about putting more responsibility on the employees, and yet nothing's happening.
If I could add to that, I think having someone focused on senior programs is a great first step as well. We do have senior programs there already. There's exercise programs. The center itself is a great place for seniors to either for fellowship or to walk or to exercise. There's an awful lot going on in there. And I think Mayor Williams' comments about everything else that's going on in the city is an extremely valid point. And pulling that together, and I think, Carl, your group in tourism has tried to pull together a lot of different activities that are going on with the city. You're very good about posting things on the calendar that are going on that are good for them as well. But maintenance was more of my concern as well. We asked them to do an awful lot. I know we bought them a robot painter, which is awesome. I've watched that thing at work. I saw today a robot grass cutter, which was really cool too. It's just constantly cutting grass. That would be another good one. I think those are probably expensive. They also have robot floor scrubbers. We've got a drivable floor cleaner that the staff drives around constantly with 6 gyms. You can buy a robot, one of those cleaners that could clean the gyms at night and free up some of the staff for some other things. But maintenance was my big key.
Now back to Mr. Rick. One thing can be done now for the seniors is we bring back our coffee pot, because that used to be a big thing. They'd come, walk, have coffee, sit down, talk. Bring that back, Rick. I'll buy the coffee.
I got one more thing. Chief Johnson, rec basketball. I've been down there for 24 years, and it seems that each year it kind of gets, parents and more fights are happening. Are we looking at maybe having some more personnel down there during the season, or even when they have tournaments that come in?
So that's one of the things that I've been talking with Director Meyer about over the past several years. And one of the things in reference to tournaments is we have increased the amount that we require for public safety officers to hold a tournament there. That way that they can have more protection there to deter the crime. And the other thing that we talk about, the thing that makes basketball different than football and baseball, is you don't have that fence. In football, you have a fence between the fans and the field. Baseball, you have a fence. Basketball, you don't have that fence and people get entailed and want to get involved in the game. And parents need to stay out of it.
So that might be a future study session discussion, Councilman, but there's also a discussion about, what kind of events are we hosting in the activity center? And so when you have unsanctioned, travel ball, that's where we have a lot of our problems. And when you have a sanctioned event, we have less problems, through an athletic organization. So that's something that we can certainly take a look at as we go through the year.
I mean, I've been coaching rec basketball for 24 years, and Pat, of course, you've seen it. I mean, even at rec, there's fights. I've always been attacked.
This is just, do y'all know where the best coaches of basketball are? Sitting up in the stands, hollering about it. And I just want to throw this in. We had our
Councilwoman, that's where the best administrators are too.
yeah, that's right. The other night, just for our citizens to know this, we went on our little tour all around, which was so wonderful. And we learned one thing, Tom. The green signs are county, the white signs are city. So when when people see green signs, that's county. I never knew that.
Didn't take much.
Tom, I guess we can shake your hand for that.
All right. Whatever. Anybody else? Ms. Clifford's question that you need him to consider.
Real quick, Councilman Toole, and I'm talking with you, but directing towards Mr. Clifford. Would it not behoove us rather to raise the millage rate just a little bit more to get that extra vehicle to do the study to see if it would be worth it to have impact fees for public safety or even stormwater? Rather than looking at making up funding for one police vehicle, we make up funding for 4 or 5, because one of the things I'd like to do is get them up to date as much as we possibly can. However, we have to do it. I don't want to see the men and women that go out and try to save lives and encounter danger in our community, and nothing but the best we could give them.
Well, did that mean then we need to change? Because we got our second reading coming up, right?
Councilman, I would highly not advise trying to change the current impact fee.
But that's what.
Don't change it, but investigate adding more via.
So, Councilman, what I would say is if that's something that the council as a whole would like to invest in, my recommendation is you would do that as a capital projects fund item, which doesn't have to necessarily nest in the budget cycle that we're currently debating, or that you're currently debating.
Yes, sir. That's good.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add to that. I would agree. And just in general, feedback on the budget, none of us sitting up here, are going to get excited about a millage increase, but I do think these things cover, when you're covering additional staff and making sure that we're providing increases, which we went so long without doing for staff, those are things that I can support. So would I like more stuff in here? Would I like the Christmas list and add, all of the things, of course, but I think this balances what I would consider my priorities, while doing so in a fiscally responsible way. So yeah, there's nothing at this point I would add. I'm open to, just answer Dennis, I'm open to looking at other, and I'm sorry, my little thing that makes it not make noise is gone, so I'm making noise on here, but I'm open to looking at additional usages or a change down the road, or in addition to impact fees for public safety. But it seems to me that capital projects would be a better way to fund that than as a line item in the general budget.
I'll say this when we do each of our ordinance readings, but again, I think it's important for citizens to understand, even the council, this isn't something like the administration directors just came up. We had our first or second retreat, we had every director tell us, okay, what does it look like for our department over a 10-year period? And what the administration has been doing systematically is that one year, we took a planning department, which was basically had nobody, and we've increased that because we knew planning was going to be important. Last year, we addressed the Greenway because we knew that was a priority. So there is a plan for citizens to understand that last year we didn't raise a millage at all. We were able to implement some of those additions. This year, We've got to do the millage for the implementation, but we are trying to, as a council, be, I think, very prudent, but we're good fiduciary because this city for too long did things for gaps of years where they did not give their employees COLAs, where they did not put in the capital projects money. So we're trying to incrementally get us in a position where we can do things. So I think over a time frame, we're going to put ourselves in a better situation incrementally. So, and that's kind of, if you look at the data, we've been trying to do the last, few years is doing that. So I say that for whatever. So I think you got what you need, right? Okay, so you're next up for the billing, right? Or are we done with that?
And our balance is, our budget is balanced at the end of the year.
Councilwoman, I'm required by law and statute to provide with the council a balanced budget. So unlike the federal government.
But not every city is that way. So I want a plus for North Augusta. And also, as I said 100 times, the 25 years we did not raise taxes was the worst thing. And we're doing this, and people tell me all the time, they don't mind a tax increase if they can see what he's doing. And I think this budget shows that.
Good. You got anything, are we doing anything? You're next. We're good with budget. So
From a utility billing perspective, our bills in September went out on time. I anticipate our October bills will go out on time as well. I'm not prepared yet to brief the council on the plan to deal with the approximately 215 water customers who have not paid since February. But we'll have a future discussion about reinstituting late fees and shutoffs, but I'm not ready to have that discussion with you today. And that's all I have from my chair.
All right, so we're going to close it out. I want to just say three things. I want to thank, Chief Public Safety. Really want to thank Carl, your tourism team, Rick, Park and Rec. Guys, the Iron Man was here in North Augusta. And I will tell you, you had 2,800 participants. And the Iron Man signed a new 5-year contract with the Sports Council. And I'm telling you, we were a part of that because they love SRP Park when they started the swimming, that boat dock that people have tried to beat us up over and have not understood economic development. That is what happened this weekend. Our hotels were packed. Our restaurants were packed. That boat dock was an investment, not an expense. Where they want to continue the Greenway. So I'll tell you, the Ironman is a huge benefit for North Augusta and the CSRA, and the economic impact is huge. So you guys, directors that were involved with that, thank you for your yeoman work. I mean, it made North Augusta look incredible. So anyway, I just want to thank everybody on that. So with that being said, thank you all. Good questions tonight. Good budget, sir. And we stand adjourned. Let's go home.